to one of the most depressing movies I have ever seen in my life. Play Dogs. Brought to you by the same people who did Watership Down, but decided that wasn't depressing enough. What I do admire about this movie is the darkness and the chances that the creator was willing to take with just how haunting and cheerless and disconsolate it was. Good grief. From beginning to end, it was a feeling of just hopelessness and despair. And I think he made it like that for good reason. See, Watership Down had at least the courtesy to tell it from the point of view of rabbits that were more or less free. Here, we have the story of dogs, mainly the characters that we'll come to know and love, called Ralph, a Labrador mix, and Snitter, a foxhound. One having been a pet formerly owned by a human and loved by a human, and the other having been a lab animal tortured for most of his life. This scene had me feeling hopeless despair because what you are seeing and hearing is a dog drowning. These people actually have these tests that they perform. I don't know what this is for, to be honest. I don't know what the purpose of this is, but what, I guess, seeing how they could, I don't know. But they put a dog in there, Ralph, the main character, and I thought I was gonna see a dog die. They're hoping that he'll be rescued. Probably he's hoping he'd be rescued too. There's no way for him to climb up or save himself, which is another caution that I would tell dog owners. If you have a pool, even if you have a gate up, always watch your dogs around a body of water where they cannot get out of, or put a ladder around the side so they have a way to pull themselves out. Make sure it's secure, because I've seen videos like that with kids also, where they end up drowning because they can't get out the pool. These people purposely put this poor dog in there just to see how long he'll last. This isn't the first time he is in this horrible tub. He's been in here multiple times. And the whole idea for this experiment is so they could see how his behavioral pattern changes when he knows he's going to be rescued. And it turns out, because he's done the experiment enough times and he knows they're eventually going to pull him out, he is able to last longer with the hope that they're going to pull him out. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And he straight up drowns. When they see him going under, they don't wait till he's tired. They just literally make him drown first and then bring him back by electrocuting him or whatever it is they were doing to him. It's horrific. It's horrific. Just really crushing, especially if you love animals. And you will find yourself crying throughout this movie.
Oh, yes. Stephen, Cambridge are anxious for us to go ahead with the social deprivation.
Just hearing them shock him or whatever they're doing and him wheezing just broke my heart, because even if you save a dog or you save them from drowning, they can still get sick afterwards through pneumonia. There can still be water in their lungs, which could kill them or make them very sick afterwards. Seriously, like, how many times do you have to put him through this test before you come to the conclusion that you've already come to, that he lasts longer when he knows you're gonna rescue him? Like, what is even the purpose? I really feel like some of these people that do these research on these animals do it because they're freaking psychotic and they're using it as an excuse to be sadistic. So in the next scene, we see this person, one of the maintenance guys, feeding the dog slop. We don't know what it is. It's just a mishmash of food. And it's so disheartening to watch one of the dogs, I don't know, probably a Springer Sussex Spaniel, just wagging their tail every time they see this person, because this is all they know. And they just know, oh, you're gonna give us food. But yeah, you're the same person who ends up torturing us, bringing us away to be tortured. But you're giving us food right now, so we're good. The Stockholm Syndrome these dogs undergo is just crazy. And then seeing one dead in the next kennel, man, it takes a strong heart to watch this. I'm guessing, like, okay, if it were any other animal that we did not live with, like an antelope or something, we would be outraged, but not to the degree that we're outraged when it's dogs, because dogs are now a part of our society, an integral part of our family unit, as are cats, and even more so dogs, I feel. Even though I love cats and dogs basically equally, I only own dogs right now, but I've grown up with cats and had cats throughout my entire life, because dogs just seek to please people, and all they want is to please you. Cats do too, to a degree, but they're more like, just your servants. Like, what are you doing? Dogs rely on you. They see you as their parents or their pack leaders. They trust you to protect them. And this is what happens to many of them who trusted these people. Anyway, the stupid maintenance man throws Ralph into his kennel. He doesn't even know if the dog's gonna make it. He's just lying there. Doesn't even try to coax the dog to eat or anything. Ralph is just in pain and tortured. And Snitter, the fox terrier, wakes him up and asks him if he's okay and tells him hey buddy, look, your gate, it's open. He ends up going into his kennel and he remembers why he was there and they make an escape for it. While they're making their escape, they're also talking about different things like the white coats, which is what Ralph calls the humans. But it's clear also that Snitter has a problem with his head. He just had a major brain surgery. They also see the other creatures that are being worked on, rabbits, monkeys, and rats. I feel really bad for the rabbits because their heads are stuck in this hole and they can't get out of it. Are they expected to go to sleep like that, hanging themselves? It's just very peculiar and horrible. Like, what is even the purpose of doing that? Seriously, like, what is the experiment? To see how long they can last without freaking falling asleep and their heads fall off? I don't see any point in doing this. Ralph gets spooked and he overturns one of the tables and ends up freeing some of the lab rats. They then escape through the incinerator, where only seconds to spare, they're able to jump out before the guys come back and put the dead dog that we saw before in the kennel into the incinerator. And now Ralph and Snitter are free. And you feel that momentary respite, like you're joyous for them to be out there and free, and you think it's going to be a happy ending and they're gonna find their way back to wherever. Snitter had an owner that really loved him, and unfortunately we learned that because of Snitter, his owner trying to save him, Snitter was almost hit by a car and his owner saved his life by moving him out of the way. Cannot lie, that's probably something I would end up doing too, because you're not thinking about it, you're like, oh my god, my baby, I gotta save them, and then you die, and it's like, okay, whatever. But I'm pretty sure if the owner had known what was going to happen to Snitter afterwards, he probably would have made better preparations, or he probably would not have saved Snitter at all, or maybe he still would have. I don't think anybody would have gone back over and been like, you know what, if I could choose, I would let my dog get hit by a car and die a slow and horrible death. Anyway, Snitter is aware that they're going to need a master to take care of them. Ralph definitely hates humans, and you can't even blame him, but Snitter tries to convince him that not all humans were bad, because he had an owner who saved his life and really loved him. He had a great relationship. If they could get another one like that, they'd be golden. So they see a bunch of sheepdogs, they're corralling sheep, and they see their master with them. They say, see, that's where we gotta go. Snitter is convinced that if he works like the sheepdogs are working, then the master will want to keep them around. But he does not know how to herd sheep and only ends up making a mess. The sheepdogs come back and they're like, what the frick, man? Like, we worked so hard to do this. Where's your master and your farm? What you doing over here yipping the heels of our sheep? When Snitter and Ralph tell them that they don't have a master, it's like the sheepdog can't fathom what that means. For their whole lives, all they've known is having a master and working and being happy and having a purpose. Snitter is having a hard time. He keeps hearing flies in his head. And this part just makes me skeeve out so hard because he has this big scar on his head. He just had freaking brain surgery. And he wasn't given the opportunity to heal. Not to mention, they messed up whatever they did with his brain. So half the time, Snitter is seeing things or hallucinating. Shortly after, they meet a male fox, a Todd, called, well, Todd.
Stay where you are. I mean it.
Oh, we're no kidder. No need for you and me to start battling.
I like to think that somehow the universes of the Fox and the Hound are kind of together, and when Todd is much older, he's not with the Fixie anymore, so he's off by himself and he meets these guys. And having been friends with a dog before, he's like, you know what? I know how dogs are. I know how they operate. Hey guys, I'm smarter than y'all, and I know how to live out here in the wild. You guys are not wild animals, even though Ralph doesn't want to agree. It's a great mutualistic relationship they form because Todd basically tells them how to stay out of the human's eye. They can't just be killing sheep left and right and not being cautious about it. Meanwhile, Todd benefits from having much bigger meals, since these dogs can bring down a large animal like a sheep, more specifically Ralph, because he's the big boy. By now, the people at the lab realize these dogs are missing, and they're like, oh boy, what are we gonna do? People don't know what we're doing here, and it's possible they might have had contact with the freaking bubonic plague that we're studying for whatever reason. Later on, a hunter from one of the guys is enlisted to help find the dogs. The fox is aware that humans will be looking for them because now word is going that dogs are killing the farmer's sheep in the local area. So the farmers are all getting together, and they're like, what's up? research center. Do you have 2 dogs? This doesn't belong to any of us. The sheet weren't being killed before. These dogs have green collars on them. What's going on? Who's gonna take responsibility for this? We're losing money. Not to mention, the media is going rampant with this story. Someone opened their mouth, and now the media is like, yeah, turns out those 2 dogs that escaped from the research center, they could be infected. A flea could bite them, and then if they get into contact with anything close, it can spread the bubonic plague again. So they're the plague dogs now, and now everyone needs to stay away from them. To the point where the dogs make a kill at one point, the farmers are like, no, let it go. Take the chicken with it because it's probably infected, which is making people want to kill the dogs even more. And while it's sad, I can't exactly blame them because they're worried about their animals and their dogs as well. But what the most harrowing scene is in this entire movie, I don't even know if it's the most harrowing scene, but it's one of the most harrowing scenes. It's when a guy sees Snitter and he's like, oh my gosh, come here, puppy. And he wants to adopt him. That would have been their answer to everything. You guess what this guy does? Nothing. He puts down his gun. He opens his arms so that Snitter can jump in his arms. He's going to adopt him and possibly even Ralph.
Did that to you? Come on then. Yes, that's it. That's a good fella. Come on, up we go.
Now he's dead. You know, I'm saying, like, why is your gun facing up that way, though? Like, the first thing I would do, if you're resting your gun, and, because the gun is, like, bottom heavy, obviously. The barrel weighs a little less than the rest of the end of the gun. So, put it on the ground. Put it in the pickup truck. Put it laterally so it doesn't fall over, shoot you or the dog accidentally. Like, I just thought that was something that people would know. Maybe he wasn't thinking. But you know what? That was a great part of the movie to show, hey, be careful, because if you do something this way, this could happen. Snitter runs away because he believes that everything that he does, it doesn't matter, always ends up killing off humans or the people that he loves. He brings death and destruction wherever he goes, and he believes that, and I can't blame him. First thing he saw was, oh, I love my master so much. My master tries to save me, he dies. Oh, this person tries to adopt me, he dies. Like, everywhere he goes, it feels like he can't catch a break. And the dolorific, soul-sucking aspect of the movie is that poor Snitter, who is in constant pain and torture from his mental state, also believes that he's not worthy of having an owner. Ralph had run off Todd before because Todd is a little bit selfish. If he finds little trinkets here and there, he wants a dog to share with him, but he doesn't share the stuff that he eats with them. Snitter had always stuck up for him, saying he can't help what he is. But Ralph is convinced that they don't need him. However, Ralph did need his help to save Snitter when he couldn't find him. After Snitter had run away from the whole gunshot thing, Ralph finds him and Snitter tells him his story. Later, Snitter comes with Ralph and they eat out of the garbage. Snitter is captured by some people and held for the police to get him. He's a lot cuter and easier to manage, so people aren't really as afraid of him. And by this time, they didn't believe that he had the plague per se, but Ralph asks the fox for help and they go and rescue Snitter, helping him to escape. As time goes on, Ralph and Snitter get skinnier and skinnier, and Snitter becomes very dejected, saying that all the men will die because of them. Now, there is an extended cut which shows some scenes, and there are a lot of times when you have movies where they show extended stuff and it doesn't really make sense with the movie, or maybe it does, but most of the things that I've seen where people add extended cuts, it's like, okay, we could have done without this. But this actually makes this more fun, and because you want to see more of the characters and what they're experiencing, I'm actually glad that we got to see the extra scenes. Well, the one thing I kept thinking is, oh my gosh, I hope Snitter's wound in his freaking head that's cracked open doesn't get infected when he's jumping through swamp water. Winter rolls around, and it gets harder and harder for Snitter and for Ralph to find food, especially since Ralph had chased off Todd yet again because Todd ate all the eggs. The news is spreading, the media is spreading that the dogs are implicated in the death of Mr. Chetwynd, the guy who blew his freaking face off because he was irresponsible. I hate how everything that happens to the humans is somehow the dog's fault, even though it's an accident. Kind of reminds me of the Twitter platform today. Like, if somebody doesn't like somebody or a certain person, anything that happens, all of a sudden, it's that person's fault. It can be completely unrelated to them, and they're like, you know, if such and such did such and such, this wouldn't happen, and you're like, this person's not even in the same country, what are you doing? It's just so annoying, and it honestly made me hate the humans whenever I heard stuff like that. One thing I do like about this movie that a lot of movies don't do is that you hear the humans more than you see them. Whenever you hear the humans talking about situations situations that are happening, you don't show the humans. The movie only shows the dogs and their journey and what they're going through. You don't hear the dogs talking, but you do hear the voiceover of the humans and what they're thinking about doing with the dogs or how they're feeling about the situation while you're seeing the dogs on screen. Because let's face it, that's what everybody really wants to see, the puppies. And I like that they did that because it doesn't detract away from the struggle that these dogs are experiencing, just trying to survive, not just survive the wilderness, but also to survive being killed by humans for something that's not their fault. They're starving, and so when they see a guy, they go into his car to get food because they're just desperate, and the guy tells the media he was attacked. So when they press him further, he's like, well, no, they didn't really attack me, but they attacked my car and took all the stuff inside of it. And I'm just like, if you're getting photos of them eating food, wouldn't everybody just think, wow, these dogs are freaking starving? So soon after, Snitter and Ralph meet up on Wag, one of the sheepdogs again. The owner says, Wag, come by here, just come back, and he sees and recognizes that the dogs are with him. Knowing that these dogs are infectious and they're plague dogs, Ralph and Snitter are confused because they don't know that's what people are saying about them. The sheepdog says he hasn't seen anything like this since there was this dog sick with rabies. The only thing I'm thinking is, oh boy, his owner's going to kill him if he comes back. He ran away and left his dog there. He's gonna get killed. But then the owner comes back and starts calling Wag again. Ran away before, and now he's like, come back.
You're thin, the both of you.
Here, Wag!
Do I know thee?
Here, Wag! What? Here, Wag!
Maybe he ran to go tell the police, you reckon? Anyway, Ralph and Snitter are at their wits' end, and they have no idea what's going to happen. The buzzards are even flying overhead. In the dead of winter, there are buzzards, but sure, why not? Right as they're saying that, the hunter who was enlisted had been tracking them is perched on top of the side of a mountain, on top of rocks that are slippery. You know, of all the bad decisions you could make as a hunter, why would you put yourself in a situation where an avalanche can happen and there are rocks that you can fall at? It just doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. I guess he would get that money, right? So he wants to get a good shot. I would have waited till I'm not hanging off the edge of an icy freaking cliff. Todd had seen what the hunter was up to. And even though Ralph had chased him away, Todd knows the dogs are useful and he probably has a little bit of a like for them. Like I said in my headcanon, he's the same Todd from the Disney universe. Having nothing else to eat and on the brink of death, the dogs end up eating the hunter, or at least Ralph does. In the extended cut, it shows a helicopter flying overhead and tracking possibly the dogs. Whether they were there initially to do that or not is not certain, but they see the tracks and they see the hunter's tracks as well. When they follow the tracks, they see the hunter is lying at the bottom of the cliff, and it's a very gory scene, a depiction of his body being sprawled out where he fell and his skull being the only thing that is shown through his face. His rib cage is exposed. Basically, the dogs ate his face and his torso. And his thighs, too. It is so gory, I probably can't even show it on YouTube, even though it's an animation. Ralph has a newfound respect for Todd, because if it weren't for Todd, Ralph would be dead. As a matter of fact, it's a miracle that Ralph isn't dead. And all the bullet managed to do was get his collar off of him. Now, because they've eaten someone, the military is enlisted to go search for the dogs using their own dogs, helicopters, people in jeeps. I mean, it's a big thing just for these two dogs. But I get it, and I understand that people believe these dogs are carrying the plague, but they are going around, and to the people watching, they're eating people. And the way that it works is, even if these dogs could be saved and adopted, the fact that they've eaten another human being means that they're not allowed to live, even if it's not their fault. Todd is just absolutely shocked that there's so many humans looking for them. He says they'll never make it out, and I honestly thought at this moment Todd was going to leave them, but he doesn't. Todd decides that he's going to be a distraction because he knows all the tricks that he's used on hunters and people before, and he does it, and he actually succeeds. This gives Ralph and Snitter time to get away, but poor Todd gets overconfident, and he doesn't see another dog coming towards him while he outsmarted the other two. He is able to escape briefly, but his leg is badly smashed and chopped by the other dog. Todd hears Snitter howling, and I think at this point he's just trying to survive. I don't think he was actually trying to be a distraction, but he sacrifices himself, and he goes towards the soldiers, but he has no choice because all these German Shepherds are following him from every angle, closing in on him. He can't run as fast as he normally would because his back leg is completely smashed to bits, and he dies in the same way that Dieter did in The Lost World Jurassic Park. That part honestly made me cry. That messed me up because I really wasn't expecting Todd to die. Hearing his howls of pain just made me, it just broke my heart, man. And what's more, Snitter's wondering if he's okay, and Ralph's like, no, they can't catch him. He's too crafty. They don't even know that he's dead. Ralph and Snitter make it to the sea, and this is the part where I start feeling elation because now I know they're finally gonna get their happy ending until a helicopter finds them. I'm telling you, this entire freaking movie is just so mournsome. There is not a time when they're like, I can relax. The soldiers are advancing upon them, and the only where the dogs have to go is into the ocean, into the sea. Snitter says he sees an island, their island, but Ralph is understandably terrified of going into the water, considering what he has gone through for those lab experiments. We're basically at the end of the movie, and I am still hoping, like, oh my god, they're gonna have a happy ending, right? And Snitter starts saying that he's getting tired. There is no island, you can't see it anywhere in sight, but Snitter says he had seen it until you hear him say there is no island, Ralph.
Move it, move it.
It was probably one of his hallucinations again, out of desperation. And Ralph tells him, no, there is an island. I'm gonna get you there, just keep swimming. And they're getting tired. They're both getting tired. You can hear that they're starting to take water in their mouths.
Seem to move anymore. Can't swim anymore, Ralph.
We must be near the island.
Basically, they're swimming just like the experiments until they're given up. And then you think, okay, does it have a happy ending? Because the dogs can hold out longer if there's hope. But if there's no freaking island out there, it's the sea. There's no, where is there gonna be an island out there? Where? There's no island. It's just impossible. And these people are gonna find them. Good thing there's a fog covering them. So if there was an island, they could get lost there or something. But I know that that's not what happened. Then this mournful music starts playing and the credits roll.
I don't need no pain no more.
As the fog swallows up the dogs, and it is assumed that they drowned. After everything that they've gone through, they just drown. They swim till they can't anymore, and they just fucking drown. Great, right? You think that maybe the movie just deviated from the original story, but it turns out that the original story had the same ending, and because it was too sad, they censored it to change it to a happy ending. But the happy ending is not the real ending. It's like an alternate ending to make people feel better, but it's not the actual real story. Which means that the original ending where they die, and it's very unhappy and depressing, and just downhearted and grievous, that's the actual ending. The movie is the actual ending. I hate life. I really hate life. This made me so freaking sad that my husband had to be like, did you know it was gonna be like that before you watched it? You know, because that's a problem I have. If I watch any other really sad animal videos, it's depressing. I get depressed. I get really depressed and start crying and just like, I just want to be away from everything. I had no idea. And you guys did warn me about this, but good grief, I thought it would at least have a happy ending. Watership Down was like a heavenly choir singing on Santa's lap in comparison to this movie. This movie was the grief. Very low-spirited, demoralizing. I mean, that's probably what it was intended to convey, because that's what the life of these animals would be. It's terrifying. It's terrifying that this actually happens to animals, and at least you could say, you know what, if the animals had a happy life, or at least some rest before they were put down, at least you could understand. You know, let them have, we do research on them, and it's horrible, but then give them a happy life. It doesn't even know if that's a happy life or not, because it's like after they've gone through that, they have severe PTSD, they have neurological problems, they have behavioral problems, they don't trust people. You understand what I'm saying? But maybe people can see this as a happy ending for them because they went out the way they wanted to. Not really, they had no choice. But at least, I don't know. It was just horrific. Good grief. Wow. What a glum movie. It's one of those movies like, okay, you gotta wash the taste out your mouth a bit. And then you're like, what do we do about this? This is the message that they're doing this to creatures They took Snitter, because he didn't have an owner anymore. I don't know if they just saw him running around. They're like, oh, that's a dog. Let's just grab it. Protect your pets. That's another thing. Protect your pets. Because you don't know who is going to end up with them. But now that we know this, what do we do about it? Okay, so there are people in these remote areas in laboratories that are working on animals, specifically people's pets. What do we do about it? How do we stop that? And I get it. There is some advancements in medicine that is required. You're required to have life to know how it works. Can't pay people to take that chance. I mean, brain stuff is a whole other thing. But you know what? And there's a whole ethical, moral dilemma and conversation that needs to be had about this. Because my thing is always like, you know, all the child predators out there and just the dregs of society that have taken countless lives of men, women, and children who were innocent, ate them, devoured them in that way, you know what I'm saying? Ripped apart children, ruined their lives. They don't have the privilege of living, breathing, existing anymore. Yet these people are in jail claiming mental illness, and they are living and eating and living off of tax dollars. Why not use them? The animals are innocent. Why not actually have it be a crime with a sentencing that you're giving back to society? Since you took so much from society, here's how you give back. Be part of these experiments to help other people towards making their life better. If we need a brain transplant or something, or we need to know how that works, there are countless versions of these people. And I think, honestly, the fear of being experimented on or having their heads cut open and living like freaking specimen, as opposed to just having their home in prison and being waited on, because that's basically what happens, that would make people a little bit more like, maybe not go after that child and taste its fruit. You know what I'm saying? That would be a better way to do things. But they're like, no, they're human. Sorry. The minute you start eating people and doing that to other people and taking people's lives, you are no longer human. Sorry. You have given up your rights when you started taking other people's rights to life. Maybe that's a harsh way to look at things, but that's the way I see it. And they're just sitting there eating food, getting fat, and living without giving anything back to society. They're still taking from society, taking our hard-earned money so we can keep them alive after they've taken all those people's lives. That is not fair. But yet, you don't use them, yet you're like, let's take these animals, have done nothing, and work on them instead. There's something really wrong with the world. It's skewed. We're treating criminals that are like that better than how I don't know. Stupid freaking movie. It just messed me up. But it was a great movie. It was excellently done, and I am glad that it exists. I wouldn't watch it again, because I just don't want to get messed up. I had to skip several of the clips that made me depressed just to make this review, but it was a good movie. I do think you should at least have it in your collection to show people, you know, but maybe drink a little bit before you watch it. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.